we seem to have lost our way somehow.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the way, we have lost our way. Well, how would you describe that? Do you think there
Mm,
is a way to be naturally human, if that's even a thing? Like, what does this
mm,
look like to you?
mm. Well, we are born perfect. Actually, we are born perfect already. So what is missing when we are born is a process that enables us again to really come to full um, fruition, if I can say so. Like if there is a seed, right, and you put the seed in the ground, it takes some time until the seed comes out of the ground, and then there is light, and then there again is a process until it blossoms, right? So the birth is the seed itself. It's clean, it's clear, and in the first years we do not feel separated from earth, and we do not feel separated from the mother, right? We feel one with the mother. So people start to give us a name and tell us things, and what happens is that uh, we start to build an identification, or what people like to call the ego. It starts to get built slowly, and well, it's not very clear when exactly it is fully formed, but at about between, I don't know, 8 and 10 years, your ego is fully formed, and then from that point on, it is needed. What I wanted to say is this process is needed, because in non-duality and spiritual teachings, we are often against the ego,
Yeah.
and that's fine. And we think with that we have to kill the ego. But how do you want to kill something that doesn't really exist? For me, the ego is a story that gets told to us in the first place, and then later on we add to that story, and we can change that story, right? And this is our little interface that makes us human, and that gives us the ability to have the communication that we have right now. So the only problem that there is, and I'm sure you have heard it a million times, that the only problem is that we think we are that. We're not.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that gives us suffering. It gives us pain, actually.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah. So it's not that we have to throw the ego all the way out, if that's even possible. It's just to know that we are way more than that. There's much more going on than just the egotistical tendencies that we were conditioned into. It's our natural humanness that we spoke about
Mm,
is, you could say it does include the ego. Like you said, it's necessary for me to recognize that I'm over here on this side of the camera and you're over there. You know, there is that sense of separateness, but it's not just the separateness. There is also this underlying unity between all of us, always was and always will be. And recognizing that, would you say, is more naturally human? That is the next evolution, maybe, per se, of
mm.
us becoming more human. The next stage is us recognizing this inherent unity within all of us. You think that's kind of touching upon
Mm,
this essence of this divine essence, the spiritual essence, you could say?
mm, mm. Well, I think all spiritual traditions, they aim
I think
for
so.
that
Yeah,
unity.
I think
And
so.
in a way, it is our birthright. Um, and we the beautiful thing is that cannot escape it. We
Yeah,
cannot escape it.
you can try.
Um, um, if it's if it's going to happen in 10 years, 20 years, or some people believe in a next life, or in the next life, or in this life, actually doesn't matter. It
Mm-hmm.
will happen that that
Mm-hmm.
people recognize the true nature.
Yeah.
And there are many ways to do that, many traditions, and for some it's sudden, and for some it feels like a longer process. But um, there are many names for it. People like to call it consciousness today, or awareness, or being, or mm, I don't know, ease. ease of awareness or something, whatever you
There's a
want to
lot of
call it.
labels. There's a lot of names.
Yes. And that includes the human aspect that you brought up in the beginning, because that is an idea as well. How do we know that we are human? I mean, we label ourselves as human, but the animals, they don't label themselves. Mm-hmm. Imagine an orangutan suddenly gets the ability to communicate like a human. Would you call him a human? No. Mm-hmm. And he wouldn't call himself a human as well. He would just know that he is, and he's communicating. There's communication going on, put it that way. Yeah, so it seems to a lot of us, because we're talking about consciousness here and spirituality, it seems like to a lot of us there is this unwinding process, or trying to get through layers that are actually not really there, that are just ideas, to come to know our true nature. And it is very simple. I always try to press this point very, very, very much, and I'm going to in the future as well, that it is not an extraordinary thing to know yourself, because you already do.
Yeah.
It is very, very simple. And it is so close to us. It is us. It is we. It is I. That this is what makes it difficult to see.
Hidden in plain sight.
It is, yeah. Like, I'm not the first one to say it. It is hidden in plain sight, and but there are ways and questions we can ask ourselves and contemplate and meditate on them to really quickly find out who we are. It is very important. It is very important to find out who we are, because that is our problem. We have problems. We have suffering, we have pain, because we do not know who we are. When we know who we are, the false identity that we thought that we are, the problems, they drop off. And we can go into that in detail later on if you like, because I think even there are a lot of misunderstandings, because it's easy. If I ask you now, are you aware, Gary?
I think so.
Yes.
Yes.
You are aware. How do you know?
How do I know? Just the immediate felt presence of the moment. Just the,
Exactly. Now, can you please try to describe what you see here?
It's a red phone.
Yes. What else?
Your hands are holding a red phone. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. Is there anything else?
Some cameras on there. I don't know.
I wanted, I wanted to give an example. You see, I asked you, are you aware? How do you know? You say, I just know. The moment that mind comes in, it gets, there is effort. It gets a little bit more complicated. Yeah, of course you saw it. It's a red phone. The knowing of the phone was there already. Okay, the knowing of your existence, the knowing of a body, the knowing of a mind is there. But when the mind comes in to try to describe our experience, then there's effort. And this is not what we are. we are that which knows.
Yeah.
And which is. And it is very, very simple. That is the first step. And that is important for me to continue there, because a lot of people think that this is the end. It is not. This is the first step. First, we have to listen. Then we have to understand completely. And then we have to find the proof in ourselves. It is not only an intellectual exercise. It is a true and very, very real experience, what we are. So people would call that an initial awakening or something, at moments when they get a glimpse of their true nature. Your true nature is always there. You can you had millions of glimpses in your life. You just did not notice, or you just did not know. So what happens is that to get fully established, for some people, it takes time. Now, in theory, nobody needs to get established, because you are perfect already. You are that already, right? But in practice, it has shown that even this is a very individual process. So we cannot put everybody under one, basket, or under one hat, or whatever. It is not possible. I wish it was that easy, but it's not. And being is easy. I don't want to confuse people there. It is easy to know your true nature, but there must be no effort to stay there. This is one part. And then when we get confronted with life and with struggles and with people and conversations or whatever stressy situations in your day, the question is, if all these outside things, can they influence you? Can they take you away from your true nature? Or can you know yourself still, even in difficult situations?
Mm-hmm. That's the work, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And this is what a lot of people probably would describe as an, integration process or something like that. Mm-hmm. In reality, this process is not there. For the self, for our true self, this process doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because what we want is we want to be happy, right?
That's it.
And everybody can be happy, can we be? And with happiness, I don't mean the happy like this type of happy when somebody gives you a gift or whatever. Mm-hmm. It is a calm, underlying, peaceful happiness.
Yeah.
That is part of just your existence.
Yep. Satchit Ananda.
Exactly. Existence, consciousness, bliss. Mm-hmm. Being, consciousness, bliss.
Yeah, man. So it's almost like we got to use the mind to untangle the mind. Seems like you have to turn it against itself in a way, and untether itself from itself. Very interesting, because like you said, being is simple. It's effortless. It really is. There's, in theory, nothing that we have to do, but yet there also is. But sometimes you have to do stuff in order to realize there was nothing to do in the first place. It's very peculiar. It's very tricky. It's hard to explain, honestly, but there is still this stuff we have to do to realize that there's nothing to do. It's hard to explain. I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss for words.
Yeah. Life itself teaches us.
Yeah.
What is kind of important is this really true initial moment of recognition. Mm-hmm. Because after that you cannot go back. These small glimpses that we thought this was it, actually is not it, right? Mm-hmm. I've said it in one of my videos. I've had, during my more than 20 years in search of, self-realization or whatever, I've had a lot of glimpses. Mm-hmm. A lot of moments that I thought, wow, that's it. And there was an energy in my body, and I felt like almost high, and my head was like, I could perceive everything and all that, but it's just perceiving. It's just an experience, and that would subside. So when I had those experiences in the beginning, I thought, okay, wow, this is it. And then they would go, and I was disappointed, but I knew, okay, this is not it. But this is not a glimpse for me, you see? A glimpse, or what a true glimpse, is a real recognition. And from that point on, actually, life will unfold in this way that you come closer and closer to, to always be established in that.
Yeah. Once you get the taste.
Yes.
Like a true taste of it. Yeah.
And there's no going back. But you said something about the mind. We cannot get it with the mind. It's not something that we can get. It's out of the mind. The mind is perceived by our being. So the difference between mind and us, what we are, is that mind is finite, and we are not. It has like clear,
Yeah.
sometimes, when you talk about things, or even when you study things, or you do like experiments in science and stuff, you see that minds end somewhere. There is like a border, and how can it go further? It is not possible.
Yeah.
This sensation is there in mind, and mind has a lot of very powerful and good facilities. We can do a lot with the mind. I see it more as a wrench, like a tool for certain things, but not for the answer. But this I find it's a very what we've talked about, this integration process. I know that a lot of people struggle with it, and that's why it's important for me to tell you another perspective about it. So I've noticed that. So we can attack, or we can aim for the highest. Like let's say there's a mountain, okay, and we want to go to the mountaintop. So we take a few steps back, a few meters back, 100 meters, I don't know how much, but we can see the whole mountain. And then we have a group of people who say, okay, we are going to take this route from the bottom up to the mountaintop. This would be a progressive spiritual path, like that one of a yogi or of a Buddhist, who slowly starts to build, to learn, to contemplate, to meditate on what he learns, and slowly integrates and gets to the mountaintop. And then there's the other group who say, okay, listen, we don't have to go through all this through the whole struggle of climbing this mountain. It's hard. Mm-hmm. Let's imagine, or let's investigate what it would look like from the mountaintop. Or if this is too abstract, let's say we take a helicopter and it drops us off right there at the mountaintop. Uh-huh. So we are there, and we start with, we are already that. We are God. I am God. Tattva Masi. I am that. Right? Okay, I see it. I'm on the mountaintop. And now what? So somehow I have to go back to the world, right? Mm-hmm. This is what a lot of people forget. I have to go down that mountain again, and I have to live this life.
Yeah.
So what happens is the people that started from down there to climb the mountain, they have to cultivate to be good, to do good, to be compassionate, to be caring, to feed people, to serve, to be of service, and all that, which is very, very necessary for a spiritual path and for us as human beings. We are spiritual beings. This is very necessary. And when they get to the top, they already have these qualities, and realization can be more or less completely full when they get the real glimpse. Yeah. The one that starts from the top, after that, has to do this integration and go and make sure that he really cultivates these beautiful qualities. Because what in Advaita, they in the beginning of the teaching and stuff, they don't care about the mind. For them, the mind is not important. Forget about the mind, you're not the mind, etc. Or what comes up. But the mind, it can give you positive thoughts, and it can give you negative thoughts, right? From our perspective right now. Imagine you got the realization, you know who you are, and then you say, well, I don't care about the mind, but you have not cultivated it in any way so that during your day, you don't get negative stuff like hating people or being angry with people or all that. What naturally comes up then is the need to help or to be of service, to have compassion for everybody. And this is actually the difficult part in spirituality, to cultivate these qualities. And who says, well, it doesn't matter, you just have to realize the self. It's not just that, because even when you visit these people that teach or sages or whatever, if you met one or a great teacher, they will be very, very kind and very compassionate people. This is actually what is seen, what is demonstrated to you, kindness, and not some kind of enlightenment or realization.
Yeah. Yeah. That's well said. It's a solid metaphor. The mountaintop. You could take the helicopter there, but then you're gonna
Yeah.
miss the pathway there. You're gonna miss the trials and tribulations and lessons that come along the way, because you do have to come back down eventually. And your way back down, per se, is going to be a lot easier if you took the time to follow the path up with, right view, right behavior, right, the eightfold path, you could say, or the eight limbs of yoga, whatever model
Yeah.
you want to use. Your
Yeah.
integration is going to be a lot easier because you already know the pathway up. Yeah, so I think that's good. I really like that a lot. It's very solid because that's really what it comes down to, man. That's what the spiritual path, I feel as though, is really all about. I mean, one can have the insight into God consciousness, but it's almost like you said, now what? What are you going to do with this? What are you going to do with all this insight? You just going to stay on the mountaintop all day for the rest of your life? Like, nah, that's not what it's about, man.
It's the
That's like,
escape.
yeah, exactly. That's just another escape.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just another trap of the ego, honestly. And that's the story of Buddha. He went out and tried to become an ascetic out in the woods. The cliche Buddhist monk path, he followed that, and
Mm.
he realized that wasn't it, and he came back into the kingdom to teach, you know? So take that into account too. It's pretty much the same metaphor that you use as the mountaintop, is that you can't, that's not it. Like, you have to truly, truly integrate that. And that's a buzzword I'm pretty sure we've all heard, but it's very important. Integrating these spiritual insights with right view, right action, right, whatever the other six rights are of the of
Yeah.
the of the noble eightfold path. That is real. And that is really where I feel as though consciousness in motion comes to evolve into, is that we change up how this perceived ego acts in the world, like how we become more of a servant to not only ourselves but other people, more compassionate to the people around us. I think that's what really matters here in this whole thing, because if not, then what are we really doing it for? Just so we can sit at the mountaintop all day? No, it's not worth it. It's kind
Yeah.
of boring.
Yeah. Yes. Very, very, very well said, Gary.
Thank you. Yeah.
And yeah,
Go ahead, you're gonna say something?
yeah. Please continue, please.
Well,
If you had something to say.
yeah. So where does this path begin for people? Like, how do we even know that there is a path to the top of the mountain? I feel as though, and I think you said this already, that's the most important step, is once we get the glimpse and the taste, you can't unsee that. So how does this, I like to ask people, like, how does this come into being in one's life? Like, how do we get the glimpse? Is it up to us? Are there things that we can do to facilitate the seeing? Or is this some kind of divine grace event that happens? Like, I know it's obviously a generality, so it's hard to generalize. We're all different, but maybe you could explain how it happened to you, or other observations that you have into that.
Sure. No, well, everybody has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. And most people that come to non-duality, for example, they come to non-duality very late, when they have like spent like 10, 20 or more years following some other path. And this is what we were talking about before. These years, they are not lost, right? So there was an effort there, and dedication, and all the struggles, etc. So in my case, I was kind of, my main path was and is yoga, and I was kind of born into it. When I was young, I've seen my father do these yoga asanas and breathings, and I found that to be very normal. And then later I learned that it is not normal that your father goes into his room and locks the door and does some weird bendings and exercises there. But for me, it was normal. And this is one of those stories like written in the books. When he was young, a student, he was in the mountains taking a walk or something, and there was a yogi in the grass doing exercises, and this yogi became his teacher. But my father was not so like deep into the spiritual side. It was, for him, it was more like self-improvement, or being healthy and having energy and power and will. And but this is also a very beautiful side of yoga, that you can use this energy to do things in life, right? And then when I went to study, so basically this guy, this yogi, he was the family's guru, actually, but he was my father's teacher, and I never had contact with him, anything.
You said he was a famous guru?
Excuse me?
You said he was a famous guru?
No, the family's
Oh, the family's guru. Okay.
The family's
guru. Gotcha.
He was kind of famous there, but and not in that sense. I mean, and when I went to study, I studied in Bulgaria, in Sofia. I grew up in Germany, but I've never lived in Bulgaria. My parents are actually from there. But I went there to study, and the first thing I did is I called him, and he said, well, come over. And from that moment on, I started to go to his lectures once a week, and we had contact. And yeah, that's awesome. He taught me yoga. This is how I came to it, but this, what is very popular today now, the Advaita, and what I'm trying to convey, the direct path, came much later. It came earlier too, but I totally couldn't grasp it. And then I always put it to the side. And later on, when I really got tired from all the searching for God, for our true self, then as a last resort, I said, okay, I'm going with this stupid teaching where they don't do anything. I'm struggling here. I'm bending forward, backwards. I'm doing headstands. I'm doing meditation and breathing and whatnot. And they are just sitting there and talking, and feeling happy or what, and say, you are already that. You are already that. It can be very confusing for people when you get into that. And this is a point I wanted to make, that there can be, and I'm also getting it now on the channel, and it's very normal, critique in the sense of, but it is not that easy. How can you talk that way? Why are you saying that? This is not right. This is BS or whatever. Well, I'm doing it from a different position. I'm using these words to trigger something inside of you. So you can reflect back on yourself. But for this, somebody has to listen. So that's why in Advaita, the first step is to listen. You have to listen first, and then understand it, and then make it your own, to see proof. Where is it? Is it really inside of me? Is that right? That I know the mind? Yes, it's right. Does it feel right that I don't know, I cannot see that my being was ever born? Is that true? Contemplate on it. Do you see your being to ever end? Is it unlimited or limited? What is limited and unlimited, right? What comes and goes? What stays? And these are the questions that we then have to work with. So the teacher or somebody who points is in a very weird position, when you're doing like general stuff, because you're pointing out generally.
Yeah.
But when you have somebody, a personality, a human being, which is very individual, sitting in front of you, then there are different ways and angles that you deal exactly with this human being, and not just in a general way. But hey, how can you deal with like hundreds or more people at the same time, So you give general pointers, and this is all you can do from the distance to spark something.
Yeah. As long as the pointer doesn't come back to the person, I think that's all that matters. The finger in the moon analogy, don't mistake that. I think that's really all that matters. And yeah, teaching generally is very tough. There is no cookie cutter explanation to this whole thing, because there really is no explanation for this whole thing. All we can do is simply point out stuff, and if it resonates, it resonates. If it doesn't, there's going to be some critiques for sure. But either way, as long as you don't say, you need me, I am the moon, I am the one to save you,
Yeah.
I think that's really all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, in my case, I never wanted to do this.
Yeah.
I
So why
always,
do you? Where does this come from?
I always, like I told you, I was always looking for this enlightenment or self-realization or God or whatever you want to call it. But I never thought about like teaching people. You know, I was sometimes sharing like yoga exercises when if somebody asked me, or what can I do for this or what can I do for that, and then I would say, okay, when for the neck or whatever, do this asana and then do that one. But and it was in the beginning of this of the pandemic when suddenly, you know, it clicked like really hard. And this searching was gone. It was gone. It was not like before. It was not a very intense or special feeling that, but it was a very clear one, and it has not changed since then. Now a few years, and when this happened, I said to my wife, first of all, I went to my wife and I explained it to her. It's so funny, right? Yeah, you have to somehow tell. I explained it to her, but my wife is totally not spiritual. Can you imagine? I mean, she understands all that and she supports all that, and we have very beautiful conversation. But she does nothing spiritual in any way. But I explained it to her, and then the next thing I said, okay, now I have to go on TikTok and make videos. I never wanted to do that, and I started, and it seems like people liked it. And so I kept continuing to share insights about spirituality and all that, because I already at this point I had 20 years of spiritual practice behind me, and I could combine, you know, the realization aspect with the work that has been done. And if somebody told me about his path or the, let's say, where he or she is at that moment, I could very much understand, you know, what's going on, and I was able to give some good advice. And I was doing that for like 2.5, almost 3 years on TikTok in German. Yeah.
I see. Yeah. It's interesting you said, now I have to go on TikTok, or now I have to do this, right?
It's weird. I know. It's like it's weird to talk about it. It feels like it wants to be shared. This knowledge wants to be shared.
Exactly.
And it doesn't, it's not complicated for me. You know what I'm saying? It just, I can talk about it, but I could not before. I could not. It was not possible, right? Because there was no understanding. No, how can you talk about something that you don't know? Not possible. But yeah.
There is some kind of obligation, I feel, that comes about when one gets on this path and has that understanding, most importantly within themselves. If there is some kind of inkling of understanding, there seems to be just some sort of obligation that comes about. It's hard to really convey, but I feel it as well, because and it really stems from, let me try to explain it a little more. It really stems from, because the understanding, this is my point of view, if you disagree or agree, please let me know. The understanding is that I am inherently connected to you and everybody else in the world. I've come to realize this and feel this within my heart. So with this, it's a blessing, I feel, to have that and know that. But also with that, I feel, in a sense, other people's suffering. So the obligation is in whatever way that I can, without being too evangelical about it, which I am definitely guilty of, but without trying not to be evangelical about it, is spreading the good word as much as I can, because I feel as though it's helped me so much to have that understanding. And I think we talked about this before in the beginning. Like, once you know who you are, it sort of mitigates your sense of suffering. And like, who doesn't want that? So I feel obligated to mitigate other people's suffering so they can hopefully transcend it in the same way that I transcended it, because I see myself in others. So that obligation, I feel, is just natural. When you have that true understanding within yourself, it's almost obvious that that is the next step, that I don't see any other way. I can't not talk about this stuff. And I'm not saying I know everything. I definitely don't know everything. I'm learning at the same way that I'm guiding with these videos. So point of the story is, like, I don't see another way. Maybe you feel or don't feel the same way, but I can't be quiet about this. I have to connect with others on this path, because if not, ultimately it would just cause me suffering. Like, this is just an extension of me transcending my suffering, is talking about how I have this understanding and then tapping in with other people. You know what I mean?
Yes, I
Yeah.
totally agree. There is this, like you said, obligation, and it comes different. What from my observations, it's different with different people. So one decides to. It's kind of always a sharing, right? We want to do good. Then somehow we want. I don't know why, but it feels very good to do good.
Yeah, exactly.
And and some like you are doing a podcast, you're doing it in that way, sharing knowledge, and some people, what I've noticed, they struggle with it. They say, okay, I cannot be friends anymore with my friends. Or what this group of people is talking about is absolutely not me or mine anymore. I cannot associate with that anymore. So during this whole big awakening process, a lot of people were in that, had these struggles, right? And how can I put it? The easiest way, I think, for if somebody wants to do something good is to start first, with yourself. You have to be okay yourself. That's important. And then the people that are closest to you. And then, like Jesus says, the neighbor. This is why the neighbor analogy is so important, so valid. To love thy neighbor as thyself, as yourself. Because if you're nice to the neighbor, then the neighbor is going to have a good day, and the neighbor is going to make somebody else happy. Imagine, and so on and so on. So what we do is not so much. I mean, we have the internet now, and we have all, mediums where we can connect throughout the world directly. But it's more important, these small steps, the closer to us, to our, surroundings, are as important, if not more important, right? This is the impact actually we make, to be nice, to be good, to not support whatever is going on in the world, to make a stance and make a point and react with kindness and not with anger and hate to these things. And But it's different for everybody, and somehow, some people find their way of, because it is, in a way, it is a new way of living, of being, that comes really natural. It's like you've been on paths that go like this, and you're looking and you're looking and you're looking, and then you somehow stabilize yourself, and okay, that's it. Now I am going, and it's easy, and I'm going. This kind of thing. There are no more questions about, okay, is this right or wrong? Or no, there is a deep intuition. Okay, this has to be done, and we do it. People, I think everybody will find their path just with patience and love.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Natural discernment comes about, for sure.
Yeah.
And like you said, yeah, this is it. You just know what's it and what isn't it, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
it almost seems as like though we need to figure out what isn't it in order to know
Mhm.
what is it. It seems like that's the path in a very simple manner. It's you
Yes.
have to go through to you have to what do they say? You can't have the darkness, can't have the light without the darkness. I guess you have to know the dark to know the light. I don't know. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I know it's all different for us. It's all different, looks different in the way that it comes about and how we act. The way that Gary's and the way that Daniel's.
Mhm.
You know, and our dharma may look a little different, but I do feel as though there is a similarity. And the similarity is just toward a sense of selflessness. I think the similarity is toward a sense of compassion toward thy neighbor. Man, like I said, it does look different in however our circumstances come about. But ultimately, man, and I've said this plenty of times, I
Mm.
apologize for anybody listening, but it's all about love. That's what ultimately I feel as though what we're refining ourselves toward is refining ourselves toward becoming this loving creature that knows at all times, easier said than done, I know, but knows at all times that your neighbor really is just an extension of yourself. And that I think is the next stage in our evolution is we're slowly, it may seem slow, even though I don't think it's that slow, but slowly but surely getting to a place where we're all in it together. And there is not really as much competition as there is now. It's more so cooperation. We are separate but equal, separate but one. That's the true essence of non-duality, it seems, in a practical sense, is we're all working on this one wavelength together, separate yet together. It's both. I think that's where this is all going toward. It's all going toward a refinement toward love, man. It's a cliche, but I really think that's what's happening. I mean, do you feel it? Do you feel that sense of unconditional love just naturally coming about in the world and yourself?
I do, in the sense that I want to help.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
this
Yeah.
this is it's not the love feeling that when you're in love with somebody.
Yeah.
It's not that. It is a much more kind of compassion type of feeling. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
and
love isn't
it's
even the right word. I like to
yeah,
we
yeah,
say
you know,
love, but it's not that. I mean, they say
I,
agape in Christianity and prema in Sanskrit, but still, any word and label doesn't do it justice. We just in English we have love. I don't know how it is in
yeah.
German. Imagine it's similar.
In German, it's Liebe.
Liebe.
Liebe,
Okay,
yes, love. Yeah, I always struggled with this love word. I struggled with it. My nature is, I would describe it more as peace.
mm, yeah,
Peace. And uh, my yoga teacher, he said, always before meditation, he said, without meditation there is no peace, and without peace there is no happiness.
that's
Um,
good.
and I've come to know that this is true. Out of this peace arises a natural happiness,
Mm,
like we talked before. Not the happy about something, a very natural, peaceful, happy being, you
yeah,
know, and
yeah,
that can be mistaken for the feeling or sense of love. You know what I'm
mm,
saying?
mm-hmm,
Not mistaken, but it can be interpreted as that.
mm,
Um, like when your heart opens, people would say, and then you suddenly you feel this peace. And a lot of people, for whom this awakening was very sudden. You know, they had a type, they had a really non-spiritual life, and then suddenly it hits them. This can be really overwhelming. But like we said before, when we build up to it and cultivate it anyway, generally, in our life, then the blossoming is much more, yeah, subtle, not subtle, but yeah, not so explosive,
yeah,
if I
mm-hmm,
might say. So yeah, it can happen that you're overwhelmed with love. Um, yeah, however people want to call it.
if you
Uh,
know, though.
Yeah, but yeah, it shows then in your relationships and the people around you. It reflects.
I think so, for sure. It reflects. It's a good way to put it. It reflects. Yeah, it reflects back to you. Love brings love.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
And it is so cliche, like you said. Oh man,
yeah.
When
it's too cliche.
when I was young and I was listening to some teachers or whatever online or in books, or somebody wrote something. Oh, it's all love, and I was like, well,
yeah. Well, what about Gaza? What about this? There's a lot of what abouts, but it's still not. It triumphs over all of that, all of the phenomena, all of the darkness. Yeah, and it's hard to explain. Like just us talking about it now, and anybody just listening, they don't know. Well, first of all, it's not coming from an arrogant place. That's okay. But if you do know, then it makes sense. You just have to know within yourself. It's a subjective experience, not really an experience, but it's a subjective feeling, a subjective understanding within oneself that nobody else can really do for you. I mean, some say you can get a sort of transmission from other people, other gurus, the transmission of love, but ultimately it's a transmission for you. Like however it comes about, it's the transmission for you to come back to you. And that's it. Like we all have to do it ourselves. We save ourselves in a way to save the world. We are our own savior. And yeah, that's it, man. To anybody, if there is anybody, I don't suspect it, that anybody listening this long, they have no clue what we're talking about. Just keep going. It's real. It's not just two crazy guys talking about it because they want to make a podcast. Like this is real. This love is the only thing that's real, honestly, when it comes down to it. It is real or isn't real. So I don't know. All we can be is a testimony, all we can just speak about it as a sort of testament that this is real, and just, don't lose faith in that. That's all I'm saying to that. Don't lose faith in the sense of love. Amen. That isn't even love. It's something that transcends the idea of love, but for lack of a better word, it's love. Yeah. Man, that's where all my talks come down to, In a good talk, it's always
it's very beautiful.
It's all about love. Yeah. Oh, man. I think we could probably start to wrap it up at that note. I don't really have anything else to say. Do you have anything else you want to say on that?
That was a very, very good closing. So I would not add anything more to it.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. I think this was
a good talk. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on here, Dan.
I'm feeling more happy now having talked with you. You see?
Same, man. Yeah, this is I like to look at these as my sort of sadhana. This isn't just me trying to make a video and look cool. Like, no, this is something I truly enjoy. I encourage everybody to do this. You don't even have to record it and put it on YouTube, but have long form conversation with another human being and really get to know somebody, ask somebody some good questions, and you'll find that it is a sort of meditation. I encourage everybody that is listening to do that. Just connect with thy neighbor, and you'll feel it, man. But yeah, Dan, I appreciate you. Keep doing your thing. You're definitely a real one. I feel just a very warm spirit from you. So keep doing your thing, keep spreading the good word. And I think a lot of people will resonate. I resonate at least. So,
very kind. Thank you so much, Gary.
Thank you for coming on here.
I feel the same. Please do your thing. I know you will be one of the great ones. You're doing so. Actually, before our talk, I was thinking, what can I ask Gary? Why is he doing so many conversations with people? How does he do that? And you actually you answered it.
I did already. How did I answer it? Oh, because it's like obligatory. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is basically your sadhana, and you love doing it, and you enrich your life, your own life, and you enrich the life of others. This is just the way you do it. So there was my answer.
Yeah, man. It's just natural. I just genuinely like to do it. That's why I do so much of it. I don't have a community. This is my community. You are my community right now. I don't have anyone else, because community is very important. That's one of the 3 jewels, the 3 gems of Buddhism is the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Well, I don't have a Sangha. This is my Sangha. I come on here on Zoom and talk to people. So
this is your Sangha, right?
Mm-hmm.
right? But from what I've heard, you've mentioned more of the Buddhist path. Is that what you were on, or
Mm.
are still on?
Yeah, I resonate greatly with the Buddhist teachings just
Mm-hmm.
because it's very straightforward, man.
Yeah.
It's like the original non-duality, if you want to look at it like that. It's just so straightforward, and if one is really wants to tackle this whole idea of the path to the mountaintop,
Mm.
go into Buddhism. That is a step-by-step process. I like to say
Mm.
if I'm sorry, if life is a game, Buddhism is the strategy guide for the game.
Mm.
And if you know how to understand it and look at it with a keen eye, it's just a way to accelerate oneself on the path. It's just so straightforward.
Mm.
Like I said,
Mm.
it's just there's no dogma involved, really. There
Yeah.
can be. It's just I feel as though the most pure teaching for our age, for Kali Yuga, it's the most pure teaching for one to have a sense of God realization. It's funny because they
Mm.
don't even talk about God in Buddhism. They don't use that terminology, but I like to think
Mm.
the truth is one and the wise call it by many names, and one can find
Yes.
God in the teachings and lessons of the Buddha even without having to say God. So
Yes.
yeah, Buddhism is huge. That also with yoga too, but they're hand in hand, obviously.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm totally with you there.
Hmm.
It's beautiful.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you for coming on here, sharing your time, effort, and wisdom with us. I thank anybody that listened this long. Keep on doing your thing. Keep on keeping on, and peace and love, brother. Peace and love to
Peace
you.
and love. Take care. Bye bye.
Take care.